So I think that one of the things that makes Resistance 3 so unique is its story. You know, it takes place on Earth, but it's a science fiction story. It takes place in the 1950s. It's an alternate history. This alien race, the Chimera, have invaded, taken over the world. In Resistance 3, basically, the war has been lost. Resistance 1 and 2 is about trying to battle and fight back. Resistance 3 starts off, the human race is lost. They're trying to hide, and basically it turns into this sort of post-apocalyptic buddy road trip across America as you travel from Haven, Oklahoma to New York City with Dr. Malakoff from Resistance 2. And I think it's just a very different feel. It's a much more personal story than I think a lot of games. It's not being ordered and told, you know, go here, go there. You're trying to do this to save your family. From a gameplay perspective, I think number one, you know, we're really well known for our weapons. Insomniac is known for our weapons, and Resistance is known for our weapons. We've got really unusual weapons, both the human weapons and the alien Chimeran weapons. We've also introduced this game an upgrade system, so as you're playing through, each gun upgrades twice and ends up functioning relatively differently by the end of the game. So I think that's another thing that's really different from most games. Something else that I think is different is you know, unlike a more realistic military shooter, we've got the Chimeran alien race, and so we've got everything from these sort of small insect-like creatures to these giant spiders that are, you know, 8-10 stories high that you're battling. A lot more diversity in the tactics that you have to use, and it also gives each of the weapons good places, because you've got certain weapons that work well against certain enemies and not so well. So a lot of experimentation and trying to figure that out, and, you know, learning to play well. I think we really focused on both the weapons and the enemies. With the weapons, we tried to improve, we kind of rebuilt even the old weapons from the ground up, and tried to train the players a lot more. We've got kind of a rather complicated game in that each gun has both a primary and secondary fire, something that's not usual for most games. And we found in testing that we did after Resistance 2 was shipped, that kind of whether or not players really liked the franchise came down to whether or not they understood how to use the guns. So we're really careful to train players on the existence of secondary fire, and then every time we give the players a new gun, we give them a nice little space to experiment with that gun, figure that gun out. We give them a setup of enemies that really shows how that weapon shines. And we've seen that in doing usability tests with Resistance 3 that players are switching weapons a lot more, using all the weapons instead of defaulting to a particular weapon, and using both the primary and secondary fire a lot. And I think that's making a big difference in how players play and enjoy the game. I think it's a great entry point for new players, because we've got a new hero, Joseph Capelli, the man who killed Nathan Hale at the end of Resistance 2. So we've got a nice intro movie at the start to kind of catch players up, and I think it's by far the best Resistance game, and I think it's a great entry point for people to jump in. With multiplayer, we're really focusing on player choice. We've got all the weapons from the single-player campaign. We've got all the upgrades from the single-player campaign. We've got a lot of both active and passive abilities that you can do, things like being able to deploy a turret or a bubble shield. Passive abilities like being able to be more accurate while you're running, or be able to sprint longer. And rather than sort of unlocking these and saying, you know, this is a sniper class or a shotgun class, as you play through, you unlock points, and you can unlock all these and combine them however you want. So we've got all the guns with upgrades, the abilities, and really ends up creating I don't know how many, I'm sure it's a million different possible combinations or whatever, but it's great because around the company, everyone has their own favorite build, and there's a lot of argument about what the best things are for particular maps or particular play modes. We've got a lot of different maps, everything from pretty small to larger maps, and the single-player campaign totally takes place in the United States, but as you're going through the campaign, you'll hear radio messages about battles being fought in other parts of the world, and so when you go to multiplayer, those multiplayer maps actually take place in Europe and Asia and Africa, Australia, and those are the locations that you're hearing about in the campaign. As far as modes go, we've got, of course, Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch, and we've got a couple of objective modes, Breach and Chain Reaction. And again, one of the great things about this, being able to build your character is, you know, I go in and I play different builds and different combinations of guns and abilities based on whether or not I'm playing Team Deathmatch or objective mode, whether or not I'm playing on the offensive or defensive. And so I think it really gives players a lot of room to experiment, find you know what works best for these different situations. So yeah, we've got 3D in the game, and I'll tell you, at first I was a little worried about it, a little wary of it, and the engine guys did their thing and got it up and running, and I was actually really blown away. I think it makes the game really cool. One of the first levels we played was against a big boss, the Widowmaker, and she's got this spit attack of this, she spits this nasty goo out at you. And when I saw it, the vomit kind of flying at the screen, it was like, wow, this actually is pretty damn cool. So yeah, I like it a lot. They're going to be bundling us with a 24-inch 3D TV, which is the first time I think Sony's done that. We're really excited about that, and I'm actually planning on buying one of those for my home office. We've got move support in Resistance 3, and we're also, in addition to the 3D bundle, we're also going to have a sharpshooter bundle, which we're really excited about. And again, it's just a different experience. I think it's one of those things that it takes, maybe it took me about 30 or 45 minutes of playing to kind of start getting used to it, and I'm still not an expert at it, but there are people around the company who are really good at it, and if you get in with them now, you will get your ass handed to you in multiplayer. And yeah, I think it's just a different way. I think it's sort of a little bit more of an intuitive way with the with shooting and aiming, certainly. The movement takes a little bit more getting used to for me, but I think it's just a different way to play the game. There are a lot of people out there who love the move support, the move controller and the sharpshooter, and we want those guys to be able to play our game and enjoy it the way that they want to play it. We will have move support and sharpshooter support in online and in single player. We're running friends and family beta right now, and we'll be opening up to more people, I think, in the next few weeks. And yeah, get on our website, get on Facebook, and I'm sure the community team will be handing out more codes. Resistance 3 hits shelves on September 6th. Pick it up.